I want to confess that Lord Yahweh is the true and eternal being. And I'm going to show everybody, because I have liberated myself from every lie, every deception. And I want to work with everybody or anybody who is in the front lines of research, knowledge, divinity, and power. I now realize that there's truth within everything that you do, and there's lies, and there's distinguishable lies from truths. And I just want to show everybody that I have realized and I know the truth now. I've liberated myself from the ego and from the self. And to show you guys, I'm gonna reveal my life, because I no longer live behind closed doors. I have unlocked infinite knowledge and potential, and I confess to everybody that Christ Jesus reigns forever and ever, and that everything that you do, there's divine power in nature. And I'm gonna show everybody I now know the truth. I remember everything. The music that we create, the buildings, there's divine power in nature within everything. There's perfect symmetries, and there's a difference between life and death. Food is the thing that we eat that keeps us alive. There's sustainable life and energy, but there's certain truths and certain lies that will refrain you from living that eternal being and that divinity. I want to confess to everybody that I no longer live behind closed doors, and that the fruits within my life are evident of my realization that Christ is King. I confess to everybody that I have read extensive history, and I confess to everybody that I now know the truth. There's perfect symmetries within everything. And I confess to you guys, I want to profess that Christ Jesus reigns forever and ever. But for some reason, you need a certain following in order to confess that now. I only have a small following, and there's something that doesn't allow you to reach the people. And I want to confess to everybody by showing you guys my works. I have read extensive knowledge, and there's so much paper, and it's infinite. I now realize that there's people out here that don't want you to know the truth. Please, I ask everybody, I'm praying for everybody to liberate yourself from whatever it is that you claim to be the self. There is no self. There's only one eternal being, and that's Lord Yahweh, the creator. These structures are built by people, and I want to join that collective amount of people to build, foster, and create. And I want to show you guys the fruits of my labor and explain to everybody the work that I do and the history that I've seen within my personal life, and as well as the history that I've read. I know now the truth, and I want to confess that Lord Yahweh reigns forever and ever. But there's certain restrictions that don't allow me to preach that, and that don't allow me to confess that. There's perfect symmetries out in nature. There's divinity, and I want to show you guys all that. And I confess that I'm no longer living for myself, but rather for everybody. I want to confess that I live in truth, and I live in love, and that I do this for you people. I want to point out that there's certain people who have obtained this knowledge. I want to acknowledge Stephen Hawking. I want to acknowledge Albert Einstein. I want to acknowledge all these great minds because they also understood and they also tapped into this infinite nature and divinity. But you have to confess that Lord Yahweh reigns forever and ever. And I realize this now because I have done that. I tell you the truth. I've researched and I've lived life enough to tell you guys, please liberate yourself from the ego, from the flesh. I confess that I no longer live behind a closed wall. I no longer live behind whatever it is that this is. I have now reached divine nature, and I realize that everybody, there's a collective amount of people who also engage in all this. I'm researching two-dimensional quantum materials. This Thermo Fisher scientific instrument was created by somebody, and it's perfect. Not in the sense that it's difficult to explain, but I'm telling you, there's a certain amount of people that know how to create these instruments to explore the very fundamentals of our life. And I want to confess that the two-dimensional materials will help us in distinguishing further truth and further the progress of humanity. I remember now everything and what we're here for. I want to confess that there's certain people right now who are living. I watched his YouTube videos and I now realize that string theory is more than well true, and that this person, Michio Kaku, has realized that, and I've also tapped into the infinite nature and infinite reality to that. But I confess that there's a difference between the truth and the lies, and you don't want to believe the lies because life and death is evident. And I pray that you guys don't fall into the lies, don't fall into the hate, because I confess that there's perfect divinity within nature itself, and that there's something out here that's maintaining and sustaining society. But there's certain lies out there, for example, social media that claims false imitations of the real creator, which is Lord Yahweh. I'm giving you guys the truth. Whatever it is that you guys want, I'll profess and confess to you that there's certain restrictions out in life, and that social media is one of the main things that keeps us and refrains us from knowing the truth. Look, I'm logging in to my social media within a lab. I want to tell you guys that we have free will, and if you're willing to tap into the infinite knowledge as other people have, the most famous scientists, they too will also tell you that there's divinity within everything that you see. I'm telling you guys the truth, and I don't know how to confess it to the whole extent of the world. I'm telling you guys the truth, that I've transcended from this being, this flesh, into something more divine. There's a creator out there, and I'm telling you guys that within the sciences that I've studied, I have seen that. I will show you guys everything, not with just words, but I will show you guys the truth. I must also confess that there's something out there that refrains us from knowing truth, and that is hate. I want to tell you guys, please refrain yourself from hating others. I pray that all of you liberate yourself from the lies that you've been told. I'm sorry I'm in a rush too, is because I've realized now that Christ Jesus lived within the flesh of our human existence, and he went out into the world and saw nature and saw divinity, and all he wanted to do was preach life and existence. And now that I realize this, I too want to do that. But I confess to you guys that there's going to be people out there who are going to want to go against the truth and give you lies. There's people out here who really do want to kill you, lie to you, steal from you. But I'm telling you guys the truth. There is nothing in life. The possessions don't exist. I'm telling you, this is my journal. I leave it here, and it's the truth. This is an account of history. There's artifacts that we leave for other people to indulge in, and it's creativity and it's life. I confess to you guys everything. Christ Jesus is real, and I'm liberating myself from the self. I'm no longer existing within my flesh. And I confess that Christ Jesus is the eternal being. And I want to join the collective amount of people within the front lines of science, within the perfect divinity and nature. I confess to you guys two of my... Give me a second. For some reason, this shit doesn't let me fucking get into my thing. I'm so sorry. I don't want to be hateful, but I'm just trying to spread my message. I've done the research and I've read within history the account of all creation. You guys have to remember with me in order for this to work. The Garden of Eden is still here and we are living in it. There's so many perfect symmetries and truths. The proton, the electron, man, woman, up, down, life, death. There's certain people out there who also know the truth, and I want to give you guys that truth to join me, to join Christ Jesus, to join the people like Michelle Kaku, these intelligent creators, these beings like Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, everybody, all these famous minds, they too have also tapped. Look at this. I'm telling you guys the truth. Semiconductor wafer manufacturers. There's people out here who have tapped into this infinite knowledge and infinite nature. And I've too tapped into this. But I want to work with those people. There's certain restrictions out in life that don't allow you to do that. And that's the self. I tell you guys the truth that I no longer have possessions. That I've liberated myself from that. Because it's true. If you hold on to these materialistic things in life, you'll get nowhere. And there's nothing else that will liberate you from money, that will liberate you from the self, besides confessing and being transparent. There's the Bible, the Holy Bible will tell you everything. The Holy Bible and every history book is an account of everything that's been happening, that will happen, and you guys are living in it. I want you guys to join me, please. I know that I sound crazy, but it's in the Bible. The people will call you crazy. The people will go on and prosecute you for knowing the truth. And I confess to you guys, I want to show you guys that I know the truth now, and that I've liberated myself from everything, and that I realize too that I'm here for a purpose, and that's to empower everybody, and that's to give life and to give truth. Yo puedo hablar español y también un poco de French. Bonjour, comment ça va? Je m'appelle José, et tu? I know certain knowledge, and I realize too now that knowledge is power, and that there's people who have understood this and go out and dedicate their lives to knowing all this. I want to show you guys there's so much knowledge out there, and if you just align yourself with the creator of all creators, Lord YHWH, Christ Jesus, you too will tap into this infinite knowledge. It's difficult for me to preach out and reach all the people because I don't remember this shit. Give me a second. There's divine power in nature within everything that we do, within everything that we see. I just want to confess it. But there's certain restrictions out in life that will keep you from the truth. I'm showing you guys the extent of free will. I'm leaving this. Lord Yahweh, you're real. I'm showing you guys everything. I'll leave everything behind because I now realize the truth. And I'll go to my dorm. I'll log into Instagram and I'll show you guys the truth. We have free will, but there's certain restrictions out in life that will refrain you from being creative, from aligning yourself with the true creator, which is Lord Yahweh. Please, I tell you the truth. I've gone out and done the research. I studied two-dimensional quantum materials. The quantum science is real, and I'm gonna quote Stephen Hawking because I know that I'm nobody right now to be talking on these things, and that nobody trusts me because I haven't made a name for myself. But even then, I'm liberating myself from the flesh. I don't even know who I am no more. All I want to do is just confess to everybody that there's divine power within everything. I want to show everybody the world. This building is being constructed by people. There's engineers who know how it works. And I also want to confess that there's a difference between theory and application. And the scientists, the most well-known scientists, didn't understand the theory before applying anything that they knew. They went out and created before even thinking. I want to confess, but it's so difficult. I've liberated myself, and I'm gonna show everybody the extent of free will that we have. I want to tell everybody that you have to be careful because there's people, and as the Bible states, the people who want to go out, kill, steal, and destroy. But I no longer want to live by any of these lies that we have been fed. I'm going to show everybody the power behind social media. Time doesn't exist. Pink Floyd, if you listen to his album, you will know. And I've realized and tapped into this infinite knowledge. And I just want to confess, but it's so difficult. I want to email all the famous minds. Look at this. For some reason, I've been locked out of everything. I just want to confess that Lord Yahweh reigns forever. But for some reason, there's just certain restrictions that won't let me do this. I want to confess that I've been in the psychiatric ward and that I've known and now have liberated myself from every lie. I know the difference between truth and hate, and I've realized and distinguished divinity from lies. I'm confessing once more that Lord Yahweh reigns forever and ever, and that the extent of all creation is written in this Bible. Guys, please, like I'm telling you the truth. I've experienced it, and I've tapped into the infinite knowledge. But for some reason, there's just certain restrictions that won't allow me to confess.